So the film is called IRONMIND, and anyone can watch it on our website. And I basically hijacked you and put you in the movie based on our last interview.
I was terribly upset by that.
So thank you for that. I really appreciate it. And for people that don't know, the movie, you know, from a bird's eye perspective, is about a guest coming on the show, John Joseph, lead singer of the Cro-Mags, 56-year-old former punk rocker, former Hare Krishna vegan, who is now doing Ironman races.
Former addict.
Yeah, former addict.
And traumatized child.
And sexually abused child. A lot of formers. And then 10 full Ironman races, which is double the race that I went, 12-hour races under his belt. Comes to my studio, basically gets me to go back to New York because he feels there's some unfinished business with me there, and then challenges me to run an Ironman race.
Run, swim, and bicycle.
The bike, run, and the bikes, swim, bike, and run, which is like a 6-hour affair in 90 days. And then
which the trainer tells you usually it takes a year to prepare for.
Correct, correct.
And you're gonna do it in 90 days.
Yeah, so it was quite a challenge, and we go through this whole piece, and while I'm training in New York City, I just, these demons kind of come out, and you know, that all happened. You know, I remember I was on that bike. You can't see, there's a part in the sequence where I'm training on a bike, and I go really to a state of physical exhaustion, and I was actually crying on that bike. It looks like I'm sweating, but I was crying, and my whole crew freaked out. They'd never seen me cry before, and I was literally kind of falling apart while I was there in New York, and I was in the East Village where I was first offered heroin, and I lived in this heroin addiction. And the interview we use is of me and you talking on the surface about my alcoholism, but there was also a heroin addiction mixed in there. But still, and so the movie addresses those issues, and there's a part where you come in where we do what you do with your work, and we say, okay, most people would say, oh, you had the problem and now you got over it, and we go deeper and say, okay, let's go back to the trauma. And so we visit my trauma and briefly talk about
And by the way,
John's.
if I make a comment here, at some point in the film, you say to John, you had much more greater trauma than I did. And I thought, because there's no comparing traumas. And let me ask you this question. How old were you I think you were 5 or 7 when you were conscious of having experienced trauma, is that right?
7 was the divorce event itself.
Fair enough, so it's that time. Okay. Let's take your children. How old is the oldest one? 2 years old now?
2.5.
2.5. Well, let's say he's 5 years old. And let's say you and his mother are getting divorced. But before the divorce, there's a lot of tension and stress and strain in the home. And your 5-year-old comes to you and says, Daddy, I'm so unhappy and I'm so stressed and I'm so sad and I'm so scared and I'm so angry because you guys are fighting. Would you say to him, you think this is bad? Think about the trauma that John Joseph went through when he was a kid, when he was sexually abused. Would you say that to your 5-year-old?
No, I wouldn't say that to him. No.
Why wouldn't you say it to him?
Because he wouldn't understand that. He's living in his world, and in his world, this is a traumatic event, and
it's because it'd be totally uncompassionate to say it, but you say it to yourself.
Right.
In the film, you say it to yourself.
I do.
So I thought, Brian, you're comparing traumas, which is inherently unfair to you. You can't compare traumas. Each person's trauma is their own, and the pain is real. And so to say that somebody else's greater pain is utterly meaningless. And we would never do it to other people, we only do it to ourselves. Well, anyway, sorry to jump in.
I appreciate that. And when I wrote an email, because we put this out in a weekly video series as well, and I think I forwarded you that third part where we just came clean about the heroin. And then I said, I finally wrote the story about my shameful past, and you watched the show, and I really appreciate it. You wrote back and you said, I disagree about it's shameful.
Yeah.
And that was a really powerful moment for you to say that, and I appreciate that. And if that was a really hard email to write, I actually, this had happened in New York. I hadn't told my wife about it. I came back, we made the episode, and then I showed it to her at home. That's the first time she ever heard about this from me. And then I said, baby, I have to send this email out. And she's just like, tell the world, tell them everything. So I wrote this like...
Good for her.
Yeah, she's good. So I wrote this like 3-page long email, and it's, you know, it's been one of the greatest things I've ever done. And I never thought that this deep, dark, black hole of my life would ever have any positive meaning ever. I always thought it was just this really bad time, and it will always be this dark hole. But like now, it's actually this amazing source of light.
Well, and your friend John says that in the film. I think at some point he says something about how the addiction and all this suffering has been a great gift, because he's learned so much from it.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, I was speaking to a woman today, to a journalist here in London, and she had breast cancer. And she said that was the greatest gift she had. Now, I don't recommend heroin addiction or breast cancer to anybody. It's only that when they happen, and we work our way through them, we actually get the gift of what they're here to teach us, the truth about ourselves. And that truth, that light, is the greatest gift there is.
Yeah.